What is going on, YouTube? I am Germ here today. As you guys can see on the screen a little bit, we are on Twitch. Obviously a little bit different than like Twitter or YouTube or whatever we're usually on, but we're on the channel, the Twitch channel of Power of Evil. And obviously he made the switch over to TSM this year. That's got him probably a lot of new fans. It's got a lot of more people talking about him. He's coming off overall a pretty good split with TSM. But lately, especially as far as off-season news, rumors, speculation, and everything goes, the big talk around Power of Evil and a couple of other guys in the LCS is all about green cards. When are you getting that resident status? When is Power of Evil going to become a North American player? And then when is TSM going to be opening up an import slot? And then what would they potentially do with that import slot? And then, that really gets so many more rumors and stuff snowballing and all those dominoes falling. But it all starts out with Power of Evil before TSM can actually begin to make some changes. So we do have a Twitch clip where Power of Evil talks about just that and maybe gives us a little bit more insight and maybe some things that we didn't necessarily know previously. I'm going to move myself over to this side so I'm not covering up Power of Evil. But that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. We're going to watch this clip, give my thoughts and opinions, and hopefully explain this whole further situation to you guys a little bit more. Before we get into that, I just want to mention, guys, if not already, please take a second and smash that like button. I would appreciate it so much. It really does help me out with the YouTube algorithm a ton. The videos that get more likes on my channel get out to more people, get seen by more people, get more views. That's awesome. And definitely subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content so you guys don't miss out on anything we've got going on in the near future. With that being said, here we go. Power of Evil, hit us with some info. What you got about the green card situation, resident status update? Make sure the volume's loud enough. Yep.
No, I didn't ignore you. I honestly answered that question just too many times. I'm sorry, Sirski.
So that is him talking about the green card. Somebody asked him, yo, Power People, you got any update on the green card situation? And then he ignored them, started talking about some other stuff. The guy said, oh, you ignored me. He said, no, I didn't ignore you. It seems like he's a little bit frustrated. It seems like he's talking about it a lot. Honestly, I don't really watch a lot of Twitch anyway, so I hadn't really seen clips of Power People talking about the situation. I hadn't heard any updates about this or anything. And really none of the other rumor accounts on Twitter had. So, I'm sure people come in asking this all the time, but I wasn't sure if it was something he was actively talking about or anything. But yeah, it seems, he seems a little bit frustrated, a little bit annoyed. Like he doesn't just want to keep only answering that question. And I totally get that. I totally understand.
The green card most likely next year before spring or before summer. Not this year.
So, there it is. From the mouth of Power of Evil himself. There has been a lot of talk of like, Someday just got his green card. So, Core JJ, are you close? Power of Evil, are you close? More people are talking about Sven. I don't even know if Sven's going through the green card process or not, but, so many people are just throwing all these names of the European players that have been around for a long time, and then Core JJ obviously being a Korean player. And Power of Evil saying that it doesn't look like it's happening this year. I mean, he just says no, not this year. But he says most likely next year before spring split and maybe even before summer. So they could be waiting, 2 full more splits before they have an import slot open. And to me, that is very, very big news. One, just to hear that he does think he'll be getting it next year and not this year, which is good that he at least thinks it's on the horizon for next year, hopefully before spring. But even if they just got it before summer, better late than never. Because really, in the end, as long as you get it before the next World Championship, whether you get to make the moves between Worlds in spring or spring and summer, it shouldn't matter too much, just kind of depending on what the options for free agents and everything are. But what this does mean is that, we're probably not going to see a lot of these changes for TSM at the moment. And that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. Nobody knows for sure. I got to move myself back over. What ZSXZ, who actually, he was the one, talking to Power of Evil in this clip. He's an investigative reporter now. He's, hunting down the stories. He said PoE will have the green card next year, so he doesn't expect any movements in regard to the upset and 80 carry position. So that was a rumor going around that Fnatic is potentially looking to sell off Upset. Upset and TSM have constantly been in talks. Upset's been talking recently about how maybe a move to NA makes more sense than it ever has before. So people were starting to put a lot of the pieces together of Someday just got his green card, Fnatic selling off players, Upset saying he wants to go to North America, TSM Upset, ship it. That's going to happen. But obviously Power of Evil's putting that a little bit to rest, at least now. That doesn't mean that can't happen in the future. But again, without TSM having an import slot and without TSM having a clear weakness, it's like Lost was pretty good. Huni was pretty good. They weren't great. They weren't good enough. Obviously, TSM ends up getting third. They don't even make it to the LCS finals. So their players weren't good enough. You know, Spica, he was like solid. Powerofevil was pretty dang good. Sword Art was pretty good here and there. So there's not like a clear position on TSM or a clear guy that's struggling that you're like, I need to replace him. There's not necessarily a clear upgrade out there. So without having that import slot of being able to go land like a big European player or a big Korean player, it is difficult for TSM to make too many upgrades. So this kind of does leave TSM in a weird position now where they are pretty clearly, most likely, I mean, depending on how things go, behind Cloud9 and Team Liquid heading into the summer split. And yeah, that should still lock them up for that third spot. That should still make them be able to attend Worlds. And if they continue to develop as a team, who knows? Maybe they can be top 2. Maybe they could, you know, maybe compete for an LCS title. Who knows exactly? But the big problem for TSM here is that 100 Thieves is kind of on the come up right now. 100 Thieves just went out and got Reapered. 100 Thieves just went out and got Abadage. 100 Thieves was only a little bit behind these top 3 teams in the spring split, and that's without Abadage. That's without Reapered. That's with guys that I consider, you know, significant downgrades over Reapered and over Abadage. I'm not a big Zix fan personally. I don't think he's that great of a coach. And I'm also not a big fan of Ryoma, or I don't think DeMonte was doing enough to warrant him continuing to have a starting position in the LCS, especially on 100 Thieves, a team that's trying to go to Worlds and compete for championships. So I think Abadage will be a very clear upgrade there. I think Reapered will be a very clear upgrade over Zix. And I think all of a sudden, 100 Thieves is scary, and they are a realistic team to compete for that third spot at Worlds, if not even more. You know, this could potentially, this offseason of things not working out, them not being able to get an import slot, not being able to make any upgrades, not being able to make any changes, maybe they just continue to develop. Maybe Lost continues to get better. Maybe TSM learns synergy. Maybe Bjergsen learns more as a coach and they just continue to get better and better. Sword Art gets more comfortable here. Maybe everything just keeps going right for TSM. But it at least is not completely out of the picture, not completely out of the conversation, not completely out of the realm of possibility that TSM would maybe not make it to Worlds all of a sudden, or at least would not be favored to make it to Worlds. Like, you could realistically put together power rankings and put together, you know, a list of the teams and have TSM at 4 outside of the Worlds picture, outside of international tournaments, and I don't think anyone would call you too crazy at this point. You know, this is a team that finished 3rd in the regular season, 3rd in the playoffs, and again, 100 Thieves, 4th in the regular season, 4th in the playoffs, and they had a great offseason, and TSM looks like they will most likely be making no moves in this offseason, just with how things are working out. Again, I don't even know who you would begin to move. Would it be Lost? I mean, he kind of seems like, without making any changes, he could be maybe the AD carry for the future. Would you replace Huni? Who would you replace him with? I mean, and he wasn't even that bad. What, he's 3rd team all LCS top lane? So it becomes really, really difficult to find a way for TSM to get better, at least on paper, going into the split. And again, it's not played on paper. That doesn't exactly matter. We're going to see what happens on the Rift. Teams can surprise people. Nobody expected TSM to win the championship last year. That ends up happening. You know, no one expected the Cloud9 collapse going into summer. That ends up happening. You never really know. So it's not the end of the world if TSM doesn't make any moves, doesn't make any upgrades. Having another split of this roster together to grow, to develop further, to get more confidence in each other and learn how to play as a team, that can be great. But you know, this is obviously a big story in the meantime that other teams are upgrading and TSM will not have the green card done for Powerofevil. But again, looking into the future, this does seem like this next offseason could be a very, very big and spicy one for TSM. Depending on what happens this next split, if Huni looks good, if Spica looks good, if Lost looks good, or if Huni looks bad, if Spica looks bad, if Lost looks bad, there could potentially be an import slot opening up, and it seems like there most likely is going to be an import slot opening up, and obviously that's going to mean a ton of money for Powerofevil. That's going to mean TSM's probably going to have to pay more, all that stuff, but it's also going to mean that they're going to have a ton of options out there to them. I mean, I know we've talked previously how Sovum from Suning Gaming has potentially said that he's maybe interested in joining TSM. That's been a crazy story. There's going to be, you know, Self-Made is going to be available, potentially Yankos is going to be available. There's going to be all these different names going around. Upset. Who knows exactly what's going to be happening in the top lane? Maybe Bwipo is going to be a free agent. TSM is going to have an import slot, and they're going to have to decide, one, who do they want to keep out of those 2 or 3 guys? Who do they want to replace? Who is replaceable? Who's not replaceable? Who's good enough to keep around? Who's not good enough to keep around? And then also, how much do they want to pay for a free agent? Who is the right free agent for them? Is it a European player? Is it a Korean player? Is it a Chinese player? And it's going to be really, really spicy and interesting for TSM. There's going to be so many rumors and speculations being thrown around about a massive brand, a massive team, a massive organization. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy. You know, those are obviously the stories that I like to cover the most. Things I like to talk about is kind of roster building, shuffling of players around, theory crafting different lineups, theory crafting different teams, seeing would this make sense if this guy went here, here. And yeah, TSM's gonna have to make some decisions of, do they think Hooney is going to be around for the future, or would they rather go get somebody else? Do they think Lost is going to be good enough to be their AD carry for the future, or would they be better off with somebody like Upset? And there's going to be some tough decisions to be made, and it's going to be really, really crazy. Because we know that, obviously, Reggie loves his imports, and he's definitely going to be using... You would assume he's going to be using that import slot. You know, he's actively lobbying to get more and more import slots in the LCS. It does seem like he's very, very interested in putting those to full use. And there are a ton of names being thrown around, just like there's always going to be with TSM. There's always people who are going to be wanting to join TSM. There's people who are going to be wanting to come to the LCS, land a big paycheck, and potentially, you know, play for a team that has historically done pretty well in North America and gives you a pretty good shot of going to Worlds. Probably not doing very well once you get there, but, you know, at least you get to go, and there's plenty of good players over in Europe and China and Korea that are coming up short of that goal every single year. So this is really interesting. Again, we don't know anything more specifically about the future of Powerofevil, TSM, anything like that, but it does seem like TSM Upset is off the table for this offseason, but in the next offseason, maybe next two off seasons, there is going to be some real big changes coming for TSM. Their import slot is going to be opening up. Powerofevil is going to be becoming a North American resident, and that's going to be the first big domino to fall, and it'll be interesting to see what the subsequent changes and how this impacts the landscape of LCS, LEC, players' careers, organizations, all that. But I know it's going to be fun. That's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I'd appreciate it so much. Really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a comment down below. What should TSM do once their import slot opens up? Should they replace top lane, jungle, AD carry? Who should they go get? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace!